Okay, welcome back. This is Mr. Hassan's Maths channel. I'm now answering question number 20 from the February-March 2022 IGCSE paper 2 0580 syllabus, and this question here is about simultaneous equations. Now here we have a pair of equations, one of which is a quadratic type of equation and the other one is a linear equation. And the way they have presented us this equation makes it quite easy to solve in a particular way, where we can use a form of elimination. So for example, I can see that even though I have x squared terms, I have these two terms in y, which I can make this, in equation number 1, I can make this y term into 2y. So this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. So I can take equation 1 and I can multiply it by 2. The whole of this equation, I'm going to end up with 6x plus 2y equals 22. I'm going to call that equation 3. Now if I look at these two equations, I've got 6x plus 2y equals 22 and x squared minus 2y equals 18. This is equation 2 again, I've just written down again. Now we have the same coefficient on the y except different signs. So if I were to add these two equations together, if I was to take equation 2 and equation 3 and add them together, then these two terms will disappear. So I'll have 6x plus x squared, which you can write as x squared plus 6x. This gives you 0, and you're left with 22 plus 18, which is 40. So you're left with x squared plus 6x minus 40 equals 0. Why do I do that? Because I see I have a quadratic equation, so I wanted to say equals 0 so I can then go on to solve it. That's probably an easy way to do it. You can also do it by substitution. For example, if I'll just show you an alternative way of setting up in the beginning. We could have done the following. We could have said, okay, let's make y the subject of equation 1. So you have y equals 11 minus 3x, and then substitute 11 minus 3x into this equation to eliminate the y. So you have x squared minus 2 times 11 minus 3x equals 18. So you end up with x squared minus 22 plus 6x equals 18, and then you end up with the same thing. X squared, you're going to have plus 6x, and minus 22 minus 18 is minus 40 equals 0. End up with exactly the same equation to solve after that. We could have also done it in an alternative way to eliminate the x's, but that's going to make a lot more hassle for you. Like, you could have made x a subject, in which case you have x equals 11 minus y over 3, and substitute that instead of x here, and you have 11 minus y over 3 all squared minus 2y. You're going to have to square this, and then you're going to have to simplify. Way more difficult than doing it these two ways. So making the eliminating the y from the equation here is a lot easier because of the way that this is set up. Alright, so anyway, now once we've got the equation, whichever way we got it, our equation here is in x, so I'm going to solve this equation. So I have this quadratic equation, x squared plus 6x minus 40 equals 0. To solve this equation, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to see, can I factorize this? Now here we have a quadratic where you have the coefficient of x squared as 1, so this will straight away factorize into two brackets without having to do any splitting up the middle term or anything like that. I know they're going to be x times x, that gives me x squared. That's the only option, right? X times x gives me x squared. And then I know that here I'm going to have two different signs, because I know this number times that number gives me this constant at the end. So plus times minus is minus, so I know for sure these have to have different signs. That's the next thing. Now I got to think of the two numbers that multiply to give me negative 40. So I'm going to have two numbers that multiply to give me negative 40. And when I add those two numbers up together, I get positive 6. So these two numbers multiplied to give me negative 40. That's the product and that's the sum. So think of all the ways of getting 40. Well, the most obvious way is 10 times 4, and that's exactly what we need. You can think of 5 times 8. Alright, you can think of 20 times 2, 40 times 1, and so on. But 4 times 10 is the one that I need, because these two, when I subtract them, I get 6. And I have to have a positive 6, so it's going to be positive 10 and negative 4. So you're going to say x plus 10 and x minus 4 equals 0. That means either x plus 10 is 0 or x minus 4 is 0. So x equals negative 10 and x equals positive 4. Those are the two x values for which this equation is true. Right now, we haven't solved the equation fully yet because we have to find, of course, the y values for each of those x values. All right. Now, one of the things that you should be aware of is if you were to go straight from this step to this step without showing that you factorized, you will definitely lose marks. Okay, if you just write x equals minus 10, x equals 4, you will definitely lose marks. So what you must do is either show that you factorize, which is the easiest thing to do here, or you show that you have completed the square, or you show that you have used the quadratic formula. Now, those other two methods are not really necessary with such an easy question like this, which factorizes quite easily. So you should be used to factorizing. It's an important skill. Don't just use the button on your calculator which gives you your answer, unless you want to just check your answer, which you can check anyway. Once you've got the answers, you can check to see do they actually make sense. X squared minus 4x plus 10x plus 6 minus 14, they do. Anyway, so there we have the answers for what x is. We need to now know what y is, right? So what we can do is substitute these x values into either of the two equations. Now, normally the linear equation looks like the simpler one, and I think that's the case here. So if I take that equation, I rearrange it like I did there, I know that y equals 11 minus 3x. So I know that y equals 11 minus 3x. So we can say when x is equal to negative 10, put this up there for now, when x is equal to negative 10, then y is equal to 11 minus 3 times negative 10. Okay, so that's 11 plus 30, which is 41. So we got negative 10 and 41 as one pair of solutions, and we know that when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 11 minus 3 times 4, which is 11 minus 12, which is minus 1. So when x equals 4, y is equal to negative 1. Okay, so yeah, so that's going to be the two solutions, 10, minus 10 and 41, and 4 and negative 11. So we can write our solutions minus 10 and 41 and 4 and negative 1. I want it in that form. Now, we can always check our answers are correct. Okay, we can always check our answers are correct. So we got minus 10 and 41. Minus 10 and 41. So if we stick those in our calculator, minus 10 and 41. So 3 times minus 10 plus 41, that gives you 11. And check the other answer, 3 times 4, so 3 times 4, okay, and then plus 1, sorry, 3 times 4, not 3 times 4, yeah, the other two solutions are 3 times 4, and you're going to have minus 1. Yeah, 3 times 4 and then minus 1, sorry. And you're going to have plus minus 1. Okay, that's when x is 4 and y is minus 1. X is 4 and y is minus 1. Does that give you 11? Yes, it does. That's what we're looking for. And then we can check the other equation. We have, let's check the other equation now. So we have x squared, so we're going to have minus 10, so I'll put it in brackets, negative 10 squared, and you have minus 2 times 41. Okay, that's supposed to give us 18, and it does. And then you're going to have your 4, so put instead of x 4, instead of y, minus 1. So this is going to be minus 1 this time. And here you're going to have positive 4 inside that bracket. Okay, and then you see what we get, 18. Okay, good. So we can check to see if our answers are correct by substituting them back into the original equation, which is always a good idea, especially when you have time to do so. So there's the answer to question number 20, all about solving simultaneous equations, which one is linear and one is quadratic. This again is something that you won't find in the papers prior to 2020, you only have two equations which are both linear equations. Before that, this quadratic part was introduced since 2020. So take care of the common mistake that people make, which is to just stop at x equals and not y equals. Although normally in the IGCSE syllabus, because they have these answer spaces, most students realize, I've got to find the y value, so that helps. Alright, so there we are with question 20. Other questions from this particular paper can be found in the playlist over here. Other questions dealing with solving simultaneous equations where one involves a quadratic can be found in the playlist in this area over here. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking on this link. Thank you for watching and see you soon.